Okay, so first of all, we're going to go ahead and talk about strategies when in a superior position. These are strategies that you want to employ and use when you're in a stronger position, when you've got the upper hand. So we've got 6 here that we're going to talk about. The first is fool the emperor to cross the sea. The second is besiege Wei to rescue Zhao. Kill with a borrowed sword. Await the exhausted enemy at your ease. Loot a burning house, and clamor in the east and attack in the west. So let's talk about each one of these specific strategies that you want to use when you're in a superior position. So fool the emperor to cross the sea. First of all, I want to mention that sometimes if you'll see translations of the 36G, they'll say fool the sky or trick the heavens. But what it really should be translated as is fool the emperor. In classic Chinese literature, history, and so on, the emperor is often called the son of heaven, and people are always talking about who has the favor of heaven, and so on. So that should really be translated as fool the emperor to cross the sea. So what you want to do is don't behave suspiciously or hide your actions at all. Do what you're doing as out in the open as humanly possible, but hide your true intentions. So act like you're doing one thing very clearly out in the open, but secretly be preparing or actually doing something else. Our next strategy is to besiege Wei to rescue Zhao. So let's talk about that one for a little bit. If the opponent's too strong to be attacked directly, you want to attack him at some weak point. You also want to try and attack what they care about to drive them into an emotional response. And the thing that you really have to remember is that everybody has vulnerable points. Everybody's vulnerable somewhere. The third is to kill with a borrowed sword. So, if you can't successfully attack your enemy or your opponent, use somebody else to attack him. You can trick one of his own allies into attacking. You can instigate and create traitors and treachery in his midst, or you can try and use his own strength against him. The fourth strategy, when in a superior position, is to await the exhausted enemy at your ease. So that just means you want to choose the time and the place that you fight. And then you try and force your opponent to waste his time and energy on wasted efforts. Try and get him to exert as much of his effort, as much of his energy as possible on things that don't really matter. Meanwhile, you conserve your own energy. And when your opponent's exhausted and confused, after he's exerted all this effort and energy on this wasted effort, then you attack with power and with purpose. Let's talk about the next strategy, which is to loot a burning house. So when your opponent is dealing with any type of internal conflicts, then you attack. Wait until there are internal conflicts. If you can instigate internal conflicts, that's good also. But when your opponent is dealing with any type of internal conflicts within his organization, his country, his state, his group, whatever, then that's the best time to attack. And the sixth strategy is to clamor in the east and attack in the west. So we want to attack where the opponent least expects it. And the way you do that is to create expectations in your opponent's mind using feints. So let's go back up and take a look at all of these different strategies when in a superior position. We want to fool the emperor to cross the sea. So we act out in the open. We don't do anything suspicious. We just go about doing things very clearly and out in the open, but secretly be working on something else. We want to besiege Wei to rescue Zhao. So if he's too strong to attack him directly, attack him at a weak point. Then we want to kill with a borrowed sword. So if he's too strong, if you can't successfully attack him, use somebody else to attack him. Then we want to await the exhausted enemy at our ease. We choose the time and place when we fight. We force him to waste his effort and energy on things that don't really matter. And when he's exhausted, weak, tired, confused, we go in, move in for the attack, and crush him. The fifth one is we want to loot a burning house. So if there are internal conflicts, if he's got problems in his own house, then you attack. And the sixth is to clamor in the east and attack in the west. So that just means we attack where the opponent least expects it, and we're going to create those expectations in the opponent's mind by using feints and kind of tricking him.